Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. My name is Jesse Milestone, and this is meant to offend. So if you're offended, good. Back here to yell. Callback is over, so I can trash my voice as much as I want. But before we get into today's topic, I just want to show this off. I received this. This was, so as some of you know, I have a P.O. box now. I have an address for Mindless Entertainment. If you want to send me things, you can send it to 14320 Ventura Boulevard, Suite 163 in Sherman Oaks, California, 91423. And some people have. My first piece of tribute, as he himself called it, which was in a tube that was addressed to God Empress Jesse Milestone. I can't even tell you how pleasing that was to me. It was the most wonderful thing ever. This lovely poster, this incredible poster that is very soon going to be displayed. See that empty space back there? There. It's going to be displayed right there. I'm very excited. So you're going to see that in future videos too, because it'll be right back there. I don't even know if this lovely wonderful human being who sent me this realized that this cat looks very, very much like my very own Han Solo, who is going to be handed to me in demonstration of what he looks like, of how utterly similar they are, by my stage hand. See? Spitting image. Han Solo the cat. Mwah. Also Han Solo the cat. They're like the same thing. Anyway. So, the point of today's video is not cats and Han Solo. The point of today's video is the media and how people form their opinions and beliefs, and a few key players right now who've been getting a lot of attention on that front lately. This is for my patrons specifically, and this is, I've never done this, but this is 2 for 1 because they just go so well hand in hand. Brinchido39 specifically asked, let's talk about how people form their beliefs. Let's talk about the different sources of information they use with which to form their political, social beliefs, etc. Catpool wanted me to discuss, specifically actually wanted me to talk about, Catpool has his own opinions on things and what is good and what is bad, and notice certain hard left slants on channels like CNN, and wanted me to address that, and people like Maxine Waters, who of course has been very, very vocal in calling out the Trump administration, and then also wanted me to touch in, and we'll get a little bit into how Twitter is a horrible cesspool of bad people who disseminate bad information, because all these things just go so nicely hand in hand. So we're just gonna talk about all of them, so buckle up. It's gonna be a fun ride. So first things first, we had this thing that happened where the media was deregulated during Ronald Reagan's presidency. All of the checks and balances put upon them to ensure that they were reporting factual news and in an unbiased way went away. That's gone. So since that happened, your news has just been deteriorating in quality ever since. And now you have things like CNN, which is probably the farthest left of the mainstream news outlets, and if you agree with what they're saying, you're going to find your opinions confirmed all of the time. If you don't 100% agree with what they're saying, you don't even have to be the polar opposite, but if you don't 100% agree with what they're saying, they're going to say some things that sound totally whack to you, right? And then the opposite end of the spectrum, you of course have Fox News. Fox News, not even a news station, not even technically a news station. Technically, it is an entertainment show. So there you go. Banned in Canada because Canada does have restrictions on reporting news, and if you get caught reporting not facts as if they are facts too many times, you don't get a transmit in Canada anymore, or so someone tells me. That's anyway. So this is the climate we're in, right? Which news outlet presents the unbiased story? None of them. They don't do that. So now what you have, a lot of people know that. Most of us are very well aware of that. News media's crap. They just present their own spin on things and present their opinions and fuck all to the news, right? Most of us know that, right? So where does everyone go? They go to the internet. What do you have on the internet? Well, you have some people, a tiny group of people who consult many very different media news outlets and present you an unbiased opinion of what's going on in the world, or an unbiased look at what's going on in the world. That is a tiny minority of what's out there. A lot of what you have are people who are like, no, the media is obviously full of lies, so here, believe our story instead, which is just as specious, which involves just as few facts, if not fewer, but they're standing on the high ground of, well, I'm an independent person, so you should trust me. Because right now we live in a day and age where facts and logic and reason aren't important. And all those fun things like that great episode of The Orville, where they went to a planet where fact was based on consensus, that's what we have. That's not like a hyperbolic state. I mean, obviously they exaggerated some things. That's what we have. We live in a country right now, and in many parts of the world it's the same, where consensus means a hell of a lot more than fact. I mean, you can see that on the left side, on the right side. I don't care which side you're on. You see that no matter what? So people form their opinions based on emotion now. That's where we're at. I mean, and to an extent, that's where we've always been. But right now, your ability to access things that feel good to you, or things that just pop you into outrage, much higher than your ability to access factual things. Because guess what? When you report the news factually, it's boring. And everything's about ratings and keeping ratings and being interesting. So yeah, but when you go on the internet and you're like, well, let me read this obviously independent and therefore very reputable news source, they have even fewer. They have even less accountability because they say whatever they want and they're so small. And they have such a niche audience. No one's calling them out on this shit. No one's, people aren't going to lose jobs or all of their credibility because they report things incorrectly. They are going to, they have nothing to lose. They're telling you the truth is not in their best interest. Telling you what you want to hear is in their best interest. So you're not winning by seeking solace in, these independent people who just speak the truth. They don't. Everyone's full of shit. You want to get the news undisputed? First of all, your best bet is to watch how other countries are reporting your news, your country's news, right? That's, first of all, that at least is going to, and yes, different countries have their different slants as well, but that at least is going to remove some of the most intense emotional aspects, because these are things that do not directly affect those people. They're just sitting back watching the show, right? You have to consult multiple sources. Anytime there's a story with a polarizing, and it's gotten to an insane extent, where you read one story and you're like, wow, that there's 100% only one way to look at this. This is obviously the right way. And then you read a completely different story and you're like, oh, wow, this is completely different. Now I feel totally the opposite. You have to do that, and you have to find competing stories, and you have to find as many as you can, and you have to look at the information they give you and look at the greater context, because, oh man, soundbiting, wow. It is so easy to take things out of context. We, as Disney Star Wars haters, are very guilty of that, have been very guilty of that, because when this was all happening, it was very important to us as a group being discredited to find proof of these things that were happening, Lucasfilm employees attacking us, etc., etc. And there are some things, some incredibly egregious things that were said to and about us, and there were other things that were not so bad that were way taken out of proportion. So we all do that. All people, we are all going to do that. It is up to you to find as many different sources of information as possible and compare and contrast and use that thinking brain. Use that brain in your head. And do not talk to anybody as if you have the whole goddamn story, because you don't. You never do. That's so, people sit down one day and they're like, well, obviously this person is nuts. You look at someone like Maxine Waters, okay? Let's take Maxine Waters as an example. You have a huge community, her constituents, right? She is incredibly beloved in her constituents, and that's one of the reasons she gets to be as extreme as she does, and it seems like, oh, why does she get to say all these things with impunity? Because she's playing to her base. She knows her base. Her base loves her. They love what she does, they love what she says. So she gets to lean into that, because when other people criticize her, it doesn't matter. Those aren't the people voting her back into office. Those people don't matter to her, which is dumb on her part in a sense, because that's why, this is the same reason that Bernie Sanders was not a good candidate, is he only cared about, the things he cared about and couldn't see the big picture and didn't understand there are other people out there, right? So while she's going at it from a very, very narrow viewpoint, and so anyone who doesn't exist within that base, right? That particular group of people that she's talking to looks at her and is like, this woman's on crack. She's completely insane. Nothing she says makes any sense. And if you're listening to her and you understand the context of what she's saying, you're like, oh no, it's totally logical. Everything she's saying is, for example, this most recent thing where she's, says she's on a mission from God to stop Trump. Everyone's like, oh my God, she's totally nuts. How egotistical, how much of a heathen can you be to claim something like that? Oh my God. All right, calm your tits. She was at a church. She was talking to church, once again, playing to her base. Maxine Waters' support base is predominantly black. She has that sort of old church-going lady vibe, where yes, she's going to invoke God in those ways because it resonates with her voters. Does it mean that she wakes up and she's like, God put me on earth to stop Trump? Probably not. She just knew what to say to resonate with them. That's what happens. This is what we all do. Politicians are spin doctors. Why do you ever look at a politician and be like, that person actually thinks those things? Yes, that's exactly who they are. No, if you do that, you're a complete idiot. If you look at a politician, listen to something they say, and you're like, that one is completely genuine. that person is 100% who they are and who they say they are, totally genuine. Nobody is. And if you fall for that, you're an idiot. Sorry. That's how it is, right? And then the other bit, right? And I saw this reported from several different sources, and Ashton Birdie was one of the sources who reported on Maxine Waters and what she said after the Sarah Huckabee Sanders getting kicked out of the restaurant thing, which, by the way, Ashton Birdie had a really good take on that to start. She lost me real hardcore, right? She started out with, yeah, they can totally kick her out. They can kick out Sarah Huckabee Sanders because they are independent, they're a private business, they have the right to refuse service, right? So that totally. So she supported that. Right? She did not support apparently the restaurant owners then following her to the next establishment and harassing her. I don't support that either. That's harassment. That's ridiculous. I support the restaurant deciding to do that. That's fine. I don't support the harassment. That's not fine. Now, Ashton Birdie then erroneously compares this to the bakery who did not want to bake the cake for the gay couple, for the gay cake, right? Not the same thing. You can kick out. It's the same thing like for the what's that word for a state where it's really hard to fire people, right? You can, or where it's not hard to fire people, is you can fire them at will. Thank you, stagehand. Kelly, everybody, yeah, give it up for Kelly. An at will work state, right? You can fire someone for any reason except for discriminatory reasons, right? So you can't fire someone because they're gay. You can fire somebody because they have beliefs you find heinous, a la Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You cannot fire someone for being gay. Same situation. You can refuse service to somebody because they are what they are. You cannot refuse service to them if they're part of a protected minority. It's how it is. Because guess what? Those people have suffered. And if you want to sit there and say they haven't, you're an asshole. Like, yes, you may have issues with the amount of protections that are happening, and you may have issues with how much you think they're being given or not, or what you think you're losing. But if you want to sit here and say like, oh, those groups don't deserve any protection, you probably have never been discriminated against for an intangible quality that you didn't ask for. So stop being so freaking insensitive, is what I'm saying, right? Now, and I will also say though, refusing service to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, in my opinion, is very different than refusing service to a Trump supporter. And this is also very important back to Maxine Waters. So she comes out and she says, anyone who's part of the Trump administration, you see them somewhere, start a crowd, push back, tell them what you don't like, tell them what you don't want to do. That concept, honestly, she's advocating for real change. She is the opposite of the horrible thing that's happening now, where most people just sit behind their keyboard and demand change from other people. She's advocating for change. I can't fault her for that. Now, does it take it to her followers take it too far? Yes, absolutely. I would draw the line at private residence. I don't think you should be harassing people at their private residence. I don't think you should be harassing children or spouses. Certainly not children. Definitely, probably not spouses. But the public figure themselves, if you see them in a public area, guess what? That's the whole thing about being a public figure, you know? Again, if it's a Trump supporter, different story. If you want to refuse a Trump supporter in your service at your restaurant or your place of business, you're just a jackass. You're just a narrow-minded jackass. I would never do that, and I don't like Trump. I really don't. I despise him. But I would never refuse to engage with or provide service to somebody simply because they voted for him or support him, right? Now, a cabinet member, a part of the administration, that's different. Those are public figures. Public figures, they don't play by our rules. They don't get the same rules that we do. That's the deal, right? They get all the nice things that come with being a public figure, right? But they also get the bad things, like they're a public figure. You recognize them. You know who they are. They also have a responsibility, right? This is always a thing. This is always the grassroots, let's change the government, right? You gotta find your politicians, you gotta write to them, you gotta talk to them, you gotta express your sentiment to them. Now, do I think that a screaming mob is gonna make a difference? Probably not. I think she could probably find a lot more effective ways to communicate her message than like, let's form an angry lynch mob, which brings me back around now to Twitter, to more ways of forming information, and to the mob culture that runs the mainstream conversation right now, because that is a problem. All right, so I'm not saying Maxine Waters is a good person. She's not an honest person. She's a politician. There's no such thing. I mean, honest politician is like the textbook oxymoron. So that's just forget that. That's not a thing, right? But she's just she's playing to her base, and the angrier, and that's the whole thing, right? As much as if you're a person who hates Maxine Waters, as much as you can sit there and spin everything she says to make her look crazy and whatever, the more you do that, and the more pissed off you get at her, the more fuel she has to spin right back against you. You're just playing right into the political game. That's how it works, right? Crying over it like she's some sort of evil monster. She's just a politician you disagree with, right? Maybe she's doing things that you don't like. And yeah, I think it's a little too far, the forming an angry mob thing, right? But I don't think that she's a monster or a psycho any more than pretty much any other person in the House of Representatives or the Senate is, you know? All our congresspeople are monsters in their own way. So that aside, right, we do have that issue though, and that's where I take the issue. I'm like, you need to understand, that's where, again, Maxine Waters is out of touch, doesn't look at the bigger culture, right? She's not just advocating for change anymore, she's now tapping into this mob mentality that goes on very, very heavily. We saw it as recently as the other week with the James Gunn situation, right? In which, funnily enough, many members of the left as well as the right formed a happy angry mob together and lynched him all as one delightful little group. How about that for bipartisanship? And you just got assholes like me sitting back here going, I don't think that should happen. But I digress. Mob mentality, mob justice is not justice, and it detracts from our justice system. And so that's the problem. That's the problem with Twitter as a medium, right? It's really, really easy to just get the cipher going on, right, and just create an angry mob. You don't even do any work. At least Maxine Waters is advocating for real angry mobs. Like, you actually have to do some, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Make a sign, go out, stand somewhere and protest. Like, that's a lot more work than sitting behind your keyboard going, I agree with you, we should fire that person. That is not okay. It's not okay. There's nothing okay about that, right? The Me Too movement is a lynch mob. Now, there are good things about let's hold sexual harassers accountable for their actions. That's a great idea. We have a system for that. It's called the justice system. Oh, the justice system isn't working? How about you start trying to reform the justice system rather than just because that's what it is. It's vigilantism. I'm just going to take this into my own hands and go do that. And I guess with current superhero culture being so prevalent, it shouldn't be surprising that everyone feels like vigilante justice is just a thing that's okay. No, it's a fun thing for television. But get your head into the real world, right? But television doesn't define our lives. We're not stupid enough to think that the stuff we see on a screen is real. Same thing with vigilante justice. You don't get to be judge, jury, executioner. You don't get to ruin someone's life or career because you heard that they did something that you don't agree with and you have no body of evidence except your own emotion and opinion, which leads me right back to the beginning, which is emotion and opinion, right, are not ways of forming facts. That is not where facts come from. Facts come from a lot of other places, and, right, if a fact is a fact, it can be confirmed by multiple sources. Confirm yourself from multiple places. The only things I do on Twitter, I talk to people that I like, right? When I get involved in these Twitter battles, they're for fun. They're for fun. I would, like, who are these people who just sit around and just look for things to be mad about on Twitter and in their life? Who are these unhappy, miserable, oh, right, they're called SJWs. Oh, my bad, I forgot. But, like, it's absurd to me that people just want to do that. And that's change doesn't happen that way. We just fracture more. We become more tribalized, and that's the one last thing I'll say about Maxine Waters is that pandering to that small special interest group. It is a problem. It is a bad thing, right? Because that's what you have now. You have fracturing, and all of a sudden you have these little interest groups. And when all these interest groups suddenly think that they're the most important people, and only their issues count, right? Nothing happens. Nothing good ever happens. Oh, hi, Bubbles.
Hello.
So that's just long and short of it. There was something going around on the interwebs where it was some description of like, oh, if this candidate, this is a candidate, he's like a very moderate presidential candidate in the next election who has pretty much good sound ideas about everything that aren't going to hurt people, but may not agree with you specifically on some of your social issues or certain things here and here and here. What would you do? And a lot of people were like, fuck that guy. Extremism or nothing. And that's the problem. That is the problem with our country. That is the problem with our people. That is the problem with using emotional reasoning over logical reasoning. It's just lots of problems. So do yourself a favor, right? Check. Facts. Anytime you hear something you're like, I agree with that. Find someone who disagrees with it. Find out that information about the person who disagrees with it. Listen to them. Don't just dismiss them. Listen. Find out what their side of the argument is, and then have a conversation. It's not that hard. Anyway, I'm out of energy. I am out of voice. So Brinshido39 and Capel, that was for you guys. Let me know if I adequately addressed the subject matter that you wanted me to cover. If you want me to hit it again or at a different angle, you let me know. If you guys also want to suggest videos, that's on my Patreon. It's a super fun place where I post fun stuff for people and stuff. And that's all. I'm wearing my Cat and Apple shirt for you guys because I love you. I wore it last Thursday for my audition, so I figured I'd wear it for my callback for luck or something. Anyway, that's all I have to say. So I will talk to you tomorrow. I got an extra special rant tomorrow for all y'all. Bye.